Welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt. With me today is David Strickle, the Stream of David. This is your daily dose of happy. We are so happy you decided to join us today.
Cindie and Jacqui are going to be joining us again next week, but they decided to defer this week to David because, well, when David comes on, the stream just kind of takes over. We're not talking about a stream, we're talking about a river. We're talking about this massive waterway that comes through. So everybody has to get out of the way. Hey, I'm just kidding. David, it's great to have you back. How you doing?
Good to be back. It's funny in the intro, I'm calling it my COVID beard now, my long COVID beard. I'm kind of toying with the idea of maybe bringing that back, maybe in the fall when it's not 120 degrees every day outside.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. Not exactly a midsummer type beard, especially where you live, which is like midsummer, like throughout the year. So, yeah.
Well, I experienced something today I met a new friend via Matt, and a filmmaker from LA came out and we had coffee. And for the first time in over a year, I felt raindrops.
Whoa. Oh my goodness.
We were sitting outside. It started raining on us, and he was with his girlfriend. And I said, I'm okay with sitting in the rain because I haven't experienced rain in well over a year, probably before COVID. It was the last time I experienced rain here. So it was just joyous to have a little, it lasted all of like 5 minutes. So.
Yeah, that's life in the desert, though. That's what you normally experience when you have rain, right? Real quick.
Yeah. The irony is I love rain. I love thunderstorms, and we just don't get that.
You just don't get that. Yeah. Oh, my goodness. Well. You're going to have to do some traveling now.
I love rain. When I lived in Seattle, I wanted sunshine, so you won't.
you go for the extremes, don't you? Seattle is that's like rain central. Now you're in the desert where there's no
I've experienced. I lived in Florida for years. I lived in the Pacific Northwest. Now I live in the desert. I've experienced all sorts of different climates.
Apparently, yeah. Okay. Well, we've been experiencing a whole lot of TYA in the last week since you and I spoke last week, and it's been good. We had. Great conversation with Brent on Monday. Kat was amazing yesterday. When I mentioned to Debbie G on Friday that I was doing it, she got excited. She says, I'm going to do it all over again and do it with you. I mean, it's been quite the topic this past week. So we've got something started here for sure. And as I told you before the show, my plan has been for this past week and actually going forward is as I go through the program myself, through the TYA Bootcamp, I'm going to be sharing it with the listeners here on the show so that people can get sort of a user's idea, a user's eye view of what it's like to go through boot camp. Because anything that's like this where you have a major time investment, a major emotional investment, major financial investment, I mean, that's always a little bit daunting. It has a bit of a fear factor whenever we're thinking about doing stuff like that. So I figure maybe I can kind of take away some of the fear just by showing people what it's like. So that's the plan.
Yeah, I think it's great and very generous of you to do it and to have everybody on. It's funny. I didn't, you had sent me a link and said, hey, anybody that wants to be on, share it. So I shared it with a group of people and then suddenly I hear everybody's on. I'm like, that's great.
Right. It was quick.
On this show, as I said, you're absolutely right. This show's a blast.
It is fun. It's a lot of fun and great to have guests like that because it makes it even more fun. So, just a quick couple hellos. Hello, Sue. Hello, Shelley. Nice to see both of you guys. Shelley was on, yesterday, in fact, with Kat, and she and I were just both blown away by Kat. Kat is she is so totally up front with everything. I mean, she doesn't hide anything.
No.
She is everything is right out front and it's great. And her attitude about all of it is just so good. I mean, I was instantly identifying with her. I know Shelley was too. So thanks for sending Kat our way. We appreciate that.
Yeah, there's a fearlessness in this practice that Kat is really a big part of. Kat and you probably, you will get to know Carrie if you don't already. And I adore Carrie. Carrie, Carrie is sort of our guide in TYA Bootcamp. She's sort of the one that sort of guides you through and just makes sure that you're on track with everything and that you're booking your appointments and all that. And she does a million other things for me up to the tune of, 50, 60 hours a week. And she sold her house and she has no idea where she's going to live. She closed on her house.
Really?
Out and she booked a flight to Belize and she's going to go look.
Oh my.
Yeah. Talk about fearlessness.
Right?
She, no idea where I'm going to live. Sold everything. Free. Gonna Belize. Maybe I'll like it there. If I do, I'll buy a place while I'm there.
And I do love Carrie. I get to know her through the email exchanges because obviously she contacts me about a lot of stuff for you. And so I've gotten to know her that way. I haven't had her on the show yet, but it'll be good to have her on the show.
Yeah. Yeah, no, she's a lot of fun and definitely fearless and definitely transformed because there's a video she went through boot camp years ago with Debbie G.
And she did. Okay.
On, we updated. Yeah, the original boot camp was all channeled, and I went through and we made it. I had a digital marketing guy, Matt, take boot camp, and he got through it. He goes, "Oh my God, it changed my life. It's the best thing I ever did, but you got to get better graphics." All right. Well, if you want to help out with that, go right ahead. So they redid all these graphics, and what I needed to do with them though is I needed to go reteach the whole thing with these more polished, graphics, but I didn't want to change anything because we knew it worked. The system that was originally channeled, the training worked. So we didn't want to tamper with anything. So we went back through it. And what we did is we went through with a live group. And then at the end of all the modules, there's the live Q&A, which I think is a cool thing because if there's questions that come from the live group, they're probably going to help answer some questions of the person taking the on-demand module, right?
Sure. Yeah,
so
right.
Debbie and Carrie, I believe, are in most of the modules together because they went through it together.
Okay.
I was commenting the other day about how different Carrie is now than what they saw, in her boot camp. So she's totally transformed. But yeah, I don't even know, I trust my abundance and I trust the universe, but selling my home and having no idea where I was going to land, I love that, but I don't even know if I'm completely there yet. I'm very impressed by that.
That's on the edge. No doubt about that.
Yeah.
I also see, Kathy, who we both know, talk about a marketing person. There's a marketing person right there, Kathy Mason, but, she's tuning in and saying hello. So hello, Kathy. Glad to see you here as well. So let's talk a little bit more about the TYA Bootcamp experience and maybe even touch a little bit on TYA Mastery. We did that with Kat yesterday, but I want to get it from your perspective because she told us what it's like from her perspective of having been there pretty much from the beginning. But you're the founder of the thing, so you have a different perspective from everybody else. That's why I wanted to get your take on it. But just give people a little brief history. We've gone through this before, I know, but it's apropos to what we're talking about right now. So just tell people, where did TYA Bootcamp come from? Where did TYA Mastery come from? And where's it all going?
Yeah, well, the interesting thing is I've told my story on here a million times about how I've always had this knowing coming to me. And then I, in my early 40s, sort of magically discovered Abraham. And I credit Abraham, and I always will, for making channeling more palatable to me. And I really got into Abraham teachings. It was kind of like confirmation of everything I've been getting my whole life. Right. And then I was really guided to do it myself. And I taught myself to channel, to speak the way that we see the stream come through today. Mm-hmm. And in teaching myself to do this, I got to the point where I could sort of have a conversation with the stream, more so than just having ideas, drop in or thoughts drop in. And
which I envy, by the way. I just got to tell you, I think that's the coolest part of all, that you get to have these conversations with the stream all the time. I think it's fabulous.
It's cool, but sometimes I still ignore it. I'm still a human being. I still go down my spiral. I'm not living in perfection because of it, certainly.
Right.
But I'm now fully understanding and appreciating the fact that none of us are here for that. I call that the Instagram version of life. We're not here for the Instagram version of life. We're here for the up and the down and all of it. Mm-hmm. So, the conversation I had was, well, why do we need another Abraham? And they were very clear that this isn't going to be Abraham. This is not another Abraham. It's all source consciousness, but funneled through or filtered through a human being.
Right.
And you're going to do your own thing. You just need to trust. So I did. And I quit the job and I, wrote the book and started the podcast. And then this opportunity via Kat landed in my lap to do a course online. At first I was like, well, I'm not going to do a course. I was back when there was this guy, who was, and he may still be very popular. I just haven't seen him in a while. But this guy named Ty Lopez used to do these commercials on YouTube. And he targeted the Abraham audience, obviously, because I would watch a lot of Abraham on YouTube. Right. And he would come on and he would be in front of this Lamborghini, or he'd be walking around this man. I'm going to teach you how to manifest in my course.
Right.
That's kind of turned me off a little bit. And I was very judgmental about it. And I remember
let's be honest, it is a bit of a cheesy approach.
It was a little, yeah. I mean, you're not ever going to see me in front of a Lamborghini or.
Yeah, I can't imagine that one.
So, my favorite one was, he was on a jet and he had all these girls on the jet and they were all.
You told me about this.
Yeah, they were all like bouncing around behind him on the jet. Like, who are you marketing to here, So.
Oh, God.
So I was a little judgmental about it. I was kind of like, I'm not going to teach a course. What are you talking about? And I got out of this meeting with this person that was trying to, get me into her program to learn how to do this. And the stream came through loud and clear that, hey, you set your intention to give people real tools to utilize all this eternal wisdom from you, from Abraham, from whomever they're paying attention to you're going to do something different. It's going to be your own thing, and you need to disconnect from everything else and just do this. Mm-hmm. And I did. And I jumped in and I created a course called Abundance Breakthroughs, and it was an 8-week course. I went on my podcast and sort of said, hey, I'm doing this course and it's like $3,000. Who wants to take it? You know, I had people that took it, and
cool.
It's more expensive than that now, but in the beginning it was that. And I had people that lined up to take it. And, you know, it was phenomenal because, you know, it didn't even exist. When I sold it, it didn't exist. I was trusting the stream and trusting the universe that this course was going to unfold. And it was based on how I had learned to reinvent my life. Mm-hmm. I had taught myself to take what I was getting from the stream and what was being echoed by Abraham and apply it in my life. And I created it because I was frustrated. I was frustrated with Abraham. I was frustrated with stream. I was frustrated at my lack of ability to apply all that wisdom. You know, we have so much wisdom available to us. All of us do. We're all channels in a way. All this, you know, knowledge, this, you know, knowledge that we create our own reality and even how. But then how do you make that your habit? How do you make it your way of life? How do you truly let go and trust and believe? Because we create our realities based on our belief systems. Mm-hmm. We have evidence of that all around us, although a lot of times we don't want to claim that. We don't want to say, well, I wouldn't create being underemployed or broke or sick or alone or having been abused as a child. But once you really understand vibrational flow, how it impacts us, and really understand that law of attraction is like gravity, we're attracting everything that we're experiencing all the time. And there's a mix of good and bad because of vibrational flow, which is very much what astrology is rooted in. Mm-hmm. Okay. But we ultimately have control over how we react to this vibrational flow. That's why you won't find me, you know, looking at my horoscope or worrying about Mercury retrograde or any of that stuff, because I think it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Well, of course it is.
You know, I used to have an employee in San Francisco that would call out from work because of Mercury being in retrograde. And those are long periods of time.
Oh, yeah.
And at that time, I didn't even know what that was. And I remember Mercury retrograde. What is she talking about? She can't leave her house because Mercury retrograde. Oh, you can't leave your house. Nothing works and everything's bad. Like, well, somehow I was still sitting in traffic this morning on my way to work, and, you know, none of us died that I can tell. You know, we're all okay. So why are you allowing this to paralyze you, you know? Yeah. So I was really understanding that our mindset can supersede vibrational flow. And I wanted to teach that to people. And when I started applying that in my life, everything that I wanted to change in my life changed. So I wanted to start teaching that. So I sold this course that didn't exist. I was very upfront that it didn't exist. I'm like, I'm selling this course. Don't know what it is yet, but if you want to join and you want to pay and you want to come in, and I had people that didn't. So those are sort of my early investors, right? So they come in. Right. And they paid and they jumped in with me, and I had an outline of what I wanted to teach. And then I channeled the whole thing. Wow. We would get on Zoom twice a week. I think it was either Monday or Tuesday morning and every Friday morning, 2 times a week for 8 weeks. I got on and I channeled. Wow. And it went through, and we laid out what then became TYA, and the 4 pillars of TYA just happened. It's crazy. And I know it sounds crazy even for someone who channels and someone who's into this stuff. It literally just unfolded and happened. And that's why I'm not going to ever change the course, because that channeled guidance that was delivered in the course is magical. People say that it's, you know, alchemy in play, that you learn this practice and start applying it in your life, and it changes everything. It's a huge transformation. And the more you dig into it and the more power you give to it, the more transformative it is.
And of course, carrying on the theme of what we were talking about a moment ago, what that really means is it isn't so much that the course is so powerful, because it's like any other talisman. The talisman is just a talisman. What's powerful is that it really helps people to make breakthroughs themselves, to do the breaking.
You're doing it. It has the power that you give to it. And the first thing we tell you in there is, you know, drink the Kool-Aid and dive into it. And you will. You know, the only time I've seen people stumble in there is when they get skeptical of it. You know, you got to bring yourself to believe it and allow it to transform you. And then it's giving you all these tools to make that your new habit, your new way of being. And that's the bottom line as far as I'm concerned. If it isn't so much are the tools any good, it's, are you able to use them effectively? Yeah.
If you can use them effectively, who cares what the tools are or where they came from, or, you know, what color they are, or, you know, did they come from Alpha Centauri? I don't really care about that part.
Yeah.
Do they work? If I put them to use, does it work? And
Yeah.
if it does, I don't really care what the source is. I mean, I like the source. I think it's interesting, but I don't really care what the source is. I just want to know it works.
Yeah. Everybody wants solutions in their lives. I mean, we are here to manifest problems and then manifest solutions.
Right.
That is the purpose of life, because in our manifesting solutions, we generate new creation. So you learn all about that. We teach all about that everywhere anyway, but in boot camp, we figured out the magic combination of coaching and time and accountability and tools and mentorship and all those things that sort of swirl together to allow you to make this your new habit of thought over time. And now it's 12 weeks. So we increased the amount of time and we added a lot to it. And it's evolved as far as the 4-pillar course has not changed at all. But what has evolved is all of the other little things that we give you based on almost 4 years now of information of what works and what helps people, where people get tripped up, and all of these things. And so that's what's evolved about the course. The original course has not changed. That original slide deck that I came up with, other than being edited for spelling and grammar and made prettier in the interface, it's exactly the same. And I have no intention to change it.
And I wanted to show people an example of this because I got my first tool, so to speak, in mail, as a person signed up for this course. This is the journal. And I thought the thought that went into this journal is really interesting. I'll hold it up. It's like a little bookcase with a journal inside of it. It comes in a bag. It comes in a gift bag when you first open it up. You open up the journal. It's one of these things that's got like a locking mechanism. So there's the locking mechanism. You open it up, and now you get your journal. I mean, it's beautiful. This is a thing of beauty. And as soon as I'm opening it, I'm realizing, wow, this is really thought out, because what this is going to do is it's going to take something that people often have, and I'm one of these people who have, I've never really liked the idea of journaling and so forth, and turn it into, wow, I got this really cool thing. If I don't do something with this, I'm ruining myself. Now, it's just the way it's wrapped. But that thought process works psychologically. It makes it feel like it's more valuable. This thing feels tangible. It's actually heavy. And that kind of feel kind of just says, okay, I got to take this seriously. I got to start doing this journaling when it comes to the journaling part.
Yeah.
So there's just one example of it.
Because when you do the work that we teach you to really raise your vibration, engage source, and you journal, you're doing your own channeling.
All right, then.
You also write your code in there too, and the code writing is really cool because it's you're basically programming your new operating system.
So I got a question from Shelley, who was my co-host on Tuesday with Dean, and she did the show yesterday with Kat. She says, I noticed that Kat said that this isn't the law of attraction boot camp. It sure seems like it is to me. So what's your take on that?
Well, the law of attraction is a component of the universal process of creation, and we're all about the universal process of creation. I don't go and talk about law of attraction a lot, because law of attraction is like gravity. It just is. So yes, law of attraction is a thing for sure. Here I am on LOA today. Of course it's a thing. But,
thank goodness.
yeah. It's a thing and it's real and it's true. But I think a lot of teachers, the missing link for a lot of people in law of attraction is this idea. And I saw a guy on TikTok the other day, and he was beautifully laying out, all you got to do is be it. Be it. Be the thing that you want to be. Know that it is. Just be it. Right. How? Because when you're in high vibration and you're in a seminar, you're in a class, you're watching YouTube videos, you're listening to a podcast, you're right. All I have to do is just be that thing that I want to be, and it's just going to populate around me. And we all have evidence of it. We all see in our lives how we attract things into our lives. But then we get frustrated when the big thing that we want, I still joke about my Bentley,
Yeah, right.
What was that movie, the secret movie, where the kid was trying to will the bicycle, and they were sort of giving the impression that if you do that, then the bicycle is just going to materialize in your front lawn.
Right.
I thought, well, hell, I'm going to do that with a Bentley Continental convertible. That's what I want. And I still don't have it. I have a Mercedes convertible, but I don't have a Bentley. So it still hasn't happened. So why is that? I don't need it the way that I used to think I needed it. It's not a big deal. I just joke about it now. But why is that? I envisioned driving the Bentley.
Mm-hmm.
I went and looked at them. I smelled the interior and I looked at all the wood and the chrome and the leather and, just amazing. And it never came. Well, there's reasons behind these things. And the universal process of creation is much more than just law of attraction. So TYA is about the universal process of creation, which is very much about vibrational flow. And vibrational flow is why we are getting a mixed bag of wanted and unwanted things. Law of attraction is just assumed. It's like gravity. There's no need to teach a course on gravity because it just is. So we get into a lot of other things and tools and mindset shifts to operate our lives in harmony with vibrational flow. And a big part of that is to detune the judgment of the down, detuning the judgment of the low vibrational flow, because we're not going to solve that in physical. Nobody is operating at the top of their spiral all the time. In fact, if you do that, that's eventually going to just become the bottom of your spiral. You just start taking it for granted, and inevitably you're going to knock yourself out of there. So, that Abraham message of just get into the vortex was always rang true to me. But what I saw in a lot of people, not from Abraham, but from a lot of people who were absorbing it, is that you got to be in the vortex all the time. A lot of people took it that way. You got to be in the vortex. You can't be not in the vortex. You got to be in the vortex, right? So what happens when you're not? Because you're not always in the vortex. You're not always at the top of your spiral. Polarity is going to drag you down. And when it drags you down, what are you doing down there? How are you operating down there?
And I've had the experience this week, by the way. Literally, I was dealing with it today. This week, it was in the form of, as most people listening to the show know, Louise and I run a garden service and maintenance business. And we have, including myself, we have 8 employees, 6 gardeners, myself, and a person who does all of our new customer consultations. And for we've been doing this since 2001. We moved to Virginia, we came back to Connecticut, and we've been here since 2014. And during that time, we've never had an on-the-job injury until this week when we had 2.
That's a vibration thing for sure, right?
Yeah. One of them is a back injury. The other one was Lyme disease. And we're thinking and the Lyme disease person, their symptoms first came out as if it were a back injury. The parallels that have been going on have been crazy. And what's really interesting is both of these, they're young, one's a middle-aged woman, one's a younger woman. They're both very positive women. We have a great track record recently of hiring people who are, for the most part, very positive people. And they're both upbeat. They're, especially the younger one. Oh my goodness, she's just really, really upbeat. So here are these things happening to them. And I'm saying to myself, what on earth have I done? What did I do? Where did my whole thing start falling down into the spiral to make that happen? And that's just part of what we go through. Stuff happens in life. And of course, I reminded myself of that pretty quickly. But there was that moment where I'm thinking, how on earth did I do this? What's going on here? Oh, yeah, right. We live in a world of contrast.
You live in a world of contrast, for sure. But the thing about TYA is it doesn't deliver a life of perfection. It gives you a whole other perception or perspective of the human life experience, one that you can appreciate every aspect of humanity.
Yes. So
that's what we get away from LOA. When you're talking to a TYA master, we don't even talk about law of attraction in mastery. Dan's in mastery. He's on here still a lot, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We don't even talk about law of attraction in mastery at all. And not that it isn't important. It's just so assumed. We talk about radical appreciation of all that is. And that's a big pill for a lot of humanity to swallow.
That's a big deal. That's a really big deal.
To fear
in this case,
everything, right?
In the case of what I was just describing, it means appreciating that my employees got Lyme disease and a back injury. And that's quite a tough nut to crack at first.
Sure. The idea of radical appreciation can be such a trigger for people because, they'll start throwing out, I'm supposed to radically appreciate cancer or abuse or child abuse or a child being molested or, any number of things. You've got to ease into the work of radical appreciation. If you try to start with the most complicated thing, you're going to sabotage yourself with it.
Sure.
But it's such a life-changing thing to move into radical appreciation of all that is, because that is the thing that allows you to manage this vibrational flow with appreciation and trust. TYA is trust your abundance, which means I had to learn that when I was up here, manifesting my Bentley and loving all that is, that's a good place to be. It feels good. We're in joy. We're source connected. We're creative. We're, solution oriented. The whole world is great. But then inevitably polarity is going to pull us down, and we're in a space less than that. Maybe just in get it done mode, which is not joyful, but it's not depression or anger or anything like that. But it's still what I call below neutral. Because when we're operating in get it done mode, we are not operating in our full capacity, our full source connected capacity. So we're not as solution oriented or as creative, and we're easily triggered sometimes. If we haven't detuned our triggers, we're easily triggered. That's taking us down in vibration. Well, your life, everybody's life, is this mix of vibrational flow, and we know that it is because it's expressed in our emotions. So that's why some days we feel great and hopeful and the world is sunny and we're believing and trusting. And then the next day we go and revisit all those plans that we made when we were up our spiral, and we think, how stupid. I can't do that. That's never going to work. That doesn't work for people like me. Or, I know this law of attraction thing works for other people, but I'm broken. I used to say, maybe my attractors are broken. I remember saying years ago, my attractors must be broken. I think we even talked about that in my first book.
I think so.
Attractors are broken. There's something wrong with me. Well, there's not. There's nothing wrong with anybody. We're all attracting this mixed bag of things. But when you learn radical appreciation, you move way away from law of attraction into this deep appreciation of your experience, meaning positive and negative. And you start appreciating the negative and trusting the universal process of creation, even when you're down, even when your dreams seem impossible and ridiculous, you're still trusting. You've developed the skill of trusting your abundance wherever you are in vibrational flow, which is not the same as being source connected or in joy, because we are not here to just be in joy all the time. I think there's this, Debbie taught me a term years ago, Debbie G, spiritual bypassing. She asked me about that.
Right.
I haven't really studied this stuff. I got all my stuff from the stream and have started teaching that.
Right.
I said, well, what is spiritual bypassing? Well, that's, these people that are into spiritual stuff that believe they have to stay in this space of love and light all the time. And it's sort of this false positive, cheerfulness. And then you get to know them a little bit and you see that they go down their spiral too, but they don't want to acknowledge it, or they're terrified down there. I don't want to go down there. I'm going to miscreate. I'm going to attract bad things. Oh no, I can't be down here. Well, we all go down. So you can't operate like that. So
you can. Let's be honest. You can operate that way. It's just not going to be conducive to what you really want.
Right. You can't operate that way and be abundant and joyful and clear and all the things that we talk about being. And when you are in harmony with vibrational flow, you can be. Even when you're DTS, you can still have an awareness of where you are vibrationally and know what to do and what not to do while you're down there. And then ultimately make that your way of being.
And DTS is a TYA term that basically means down the spiral.
Down the spiral. Or, for Abraham people, out of the vortex, in the vortex. Right. It's really the same thing. We just talk about the spiral because there are different levels of this spiral. And the very top above what we call neutral is source connection. And source connection is where we are capable of new thought. If we're below that, we are not. We're disconnected from source. And source is our own source of new information, inspiration, intuition. It's part of us. And there's no real, and people get into this semantics of separation and not separation. I don't believe we're ever really separated from source. I believe our ego, our humanness, can drown it out. It just overshadows it. It's like the volume is turned up on our ego, and that screechy voice that I call Claude, that's beating the Yeah, it's funny. I've said that for years. It's one of the first things I ever taught. There's a YouTube video of me from years ago where I'm sitting on the water at my place in Tiburon, California, talking about Claude.
Oh, that's
Claude
funny.
was the voice of limiting beliefs, and Claude's favorite game is the Let's Beat Up David game. You're not good enough. That's never going to work. You'll never be that. You're a piece of crap. Whatever it was, everyone sort of has their version of Claude. And so in Bootcamp, you'll learn a lot about Claude and how to detune that and send a version of Claude away forever. And then I moved to Palm Springs and actually meet somebody named Claude. He's actually a really nice guy. And it's funny, Stacy, Stacy, who was one of my first two students at Bootcamp, who now is a coach for TYA. She works for me. she came at Christmas time and we went out to brunch, and Claude comes over to the table at brunch and says hi. And I looked at Stacy. I'm like, this is Claude. It's like, wow, a flesh and blood manifestation of Claude, red and green plaid pants, no less. It was really funny.
Oh, that's funny.
The real version of Claude.
That's right. Yeah.
And he has never said anything negative to me. So yeah. So yeah, Claude is detuned, and we all have our version of Claude, and it's possible to detune it, but it takes work. You know, you spend 30, 40, 50, 60 years, creating this default operating system that we all run on, which is very heavily rooted very often in fear, judgment of self, lack mentality, poverty consciousness, sickness consciousness, all of these things that we've got going on. All of that stuff can be reprogrammed in us, and it can be done in a very short amount of time.
I think that all of us, to one degree or another, have already accomplished that, particularly people who listen to a show like this one.
Sure. Everybody's a work in progress that's for things like this. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Nobody gets to the TYA Bootcamp as a beginner. Everyone has been through. It's so funny. You'll talk to people and they're like, well, I read The Secret, and then I couldn't really, the story, I hear it over and over again. They read The Secret, they kind of got out of religion. They read The Secret, and the whole idea of law of attraction resonated because, again, evidence everywhere. And they needed the more spiritual component of that, because The Secret doesn't get into that very much.
No.
They needed to go a little more into the spiritual side of it. Then we have Abraham. Mm-hmm. They get into Abraham, and they love Abraham, and it's all truth, and it all takes them on this magical journey. And then they take it to a point where they get frustrated by it. And then they get into TYA. And I said, well, it's funny because that was my journey. That was exactly my journey, and I see it repeated over and over again.
Which makes sense. Of course, that's who you're going to attract into the course. It makes total sense. Who else would it be?
Yeah,
it has to be that.
And it's not anything that's better than Abraham. I mean, Abraham serves millions of people, and I love Abraham. I love Esther for making channeling palatable.
Yeah.
Esther was the one that I saw channel that I thought, okay, these psychics have been telling me my whole life, adult life, that I'm a channel. And I always thought it was weird. I always thought I was going to go into convulsions and my head was going to spin or something crazy. Well, there were channels in the past, the channels of the 60s and 70s, it was a quote unquote weird experience. Mm-hmm. If you watch videos of Jane Roberts, it was scary.
Yeah.
A little scary, it's being judgmental for sure, but it was a little scary. But the brilliance in that message now can fully be appreciated. Mm-hmm. But the delivery system was something that was very, out there at the time. And then along comes Esther, who it's just like, it's not Esther. I can tell the difference between Esther and Abraham, definitely.
Oh, yeah.
But Abraham is just so relatable and warm. And, it's this lush experience that I understand why people appreciate. I appreciated it for a very long time myself. And the only reason I don't pay attention to Abraham now is simply because I really want the stream to be the stream. I want Abraham to be the perfection of Abraham, and I want the stream of David to be what it's going to be. And that has proven to be a good formula because it's sort of spun off into its own thing that serves the people that are aligned with it.
And by the way, we're not suggesting that Esther herself isn't a warm person. She certainly is a warm person, but she herself.
I don't know. Esther and I have a mutual friend, and there's a lot of parallels. Our birthdays are like 3 days apart in 20 years.
Oh, really?
We have a mutual friend, and then my Aunt Patty Sue was her neighbor in Wimberley, Texas. I don't know how much they knew each other. It's a tiny little town, and they were both wealthy women. I would imagine they crossed paths at some point. Who knows?
Probably.
But it was just interesting, all little synchronicities and stuff. But I've never met Esther. I was in Santa Barbara not long ago, and I saw a woman sitting across from me in a restaurant, and I had to just keep glancing. I'm like, is that Esther Hicks? I looked a little further. I'm like, okay, Esther is this woman's a little younger than that. It looked just like her though. It was the closest I've ever come to walking up to, I see celebrities all the time, and I could care less, Oh, look, there's
where you live, you're going to see them a lot.
I would never bother walking up to a celebrity. I think that would be really annoying for everyone involved.
Sure, yeah.
It was the closest I've ever come to walking up to somebody and saying,
when you saw that person,
can we take a selfie? No. I didn't do it, but I was really tempted. And then in time I realized, okay, it's not her, but man, it looks a lot like her.
Well, and also Esther herself, when she does a workshop, the way the workshop starts is always the same way. She comes up on stage, says hi, and then she says goodbye, and then she goes into Abraham. She didn't get any time
and it works very, very well. And it's funny because I, again, when I started doing my podcast, it was a solo gig. Nobody knew who the heck I was. So I'd sit in my living room in Tiburon. I would record and talk about something. Then I would channel the stream on the topic, and then I would come back. And if you go to my old podcasts, there's everything. There's just about every topic you can imagine is covered in there. And I would come back and I would listen to the channel message back because I don't really remember. And then I would come back and comment on it. And that was my brand, if you will. And I've continued that way. So, you know, unlike Abraham, unfortunately, you're subjected to David and then you get the stream. And I think it's always going to be like that. You know, it's me as an imperfect human being making sense as best I can of what's being offered by them.
I love Carla's comment. I'm going to throw it up here on the screen. She says, I believe it's part of the path to finding the thing that most speaks to you. And then you find the next and so on. And at the end of that path, you find the truth, at least for me.
Yeah.
I think that's a beautiful way of describing it.
You're building your own personal toolkit, and there's no one size fits all teacher. There's no one size fits all solution. You know, in the TYA world, we're trying to offer things for people to keep going with the practice if they want. I talked to somebody last night, Holly from Sydney. She was one of my first people that went through boot camp. Wow. She got out of boot camp. She went and went on and did all of this shadow work, which I didn't even know what that was until she got into it. Oh yeah, we call it detuning, radical appreciation and detuning. And then she came back around to TYA and back into mentoring. And now she's a TYA mentor and she'll be in the coaching program ultimately. And, you know, it's funny. I said, you know, it's interesting that you went and did all the shadow work because in the beginning we didn't go super, super deep into that. And now we do. So she was sort of a sign of the things that we do now in boot camp that we weren't early on that we needed to do. You know, we needed to go deeper into that, you know, the darkness, we call it transgressor work. You know, the radical appreciation of all our transgressors is such a release and such an upgrade. So, you know, we do that. And then we have mastery. And everybody's path is different. You know, I'm happy when people get through boot camp and I know they know how to make TYA their way of being, and it's their choice whether they, you know, do or not. I can't imagine anyone doing all that and not being forever changed by it. And I'm not aware of anybody who hasn't been, but they've done it. And they've seen it show up in their life. That's, by the way, you'll find out tomorrow. That's when you graduate.
Okay.
It shows up in your life and you have tangible evidence, and I don't miss any money, but tangible evidence of it. You graduate. You don't graduate until you get the actual shows up in your life. And the reason that we do that is because we want you to believe it and trust it and give it the power. And we want you to get in and do the work with us, see how much power you really have. And then take that, and then, you know, we have multiple paths, including saying goodbye at the end. If that's your journey, it's fine. And, you know, the multiple thing makes a whole lot of sense. And, you know, this is not about one thing being better than the other. However, I will say TYA is not for a law of attraction beginner.
I think that's pretty obvious.
Yeah. And if they want to get into boot camp and they have no clue about manifesting their own reality, or they're still very, very, very rooted in a victim vibe and have no desire to get out of it. That people don't get into boot camp. And we do get calls with them sometimes, and we you know, give them other work to go do first. But if you're in the victim vibe at all, you know, even if you don't know how you manifest unwanted things, claiming ownership of I know that I do, I don't fully know how, and I want to change it. That's the key to getting into boot camp. But anybody comes, no, I'm not going to take responsibility for this, that, and the other thing. Those people were awful and they were terrible and they did that to me. I will say you do not need to be in boot camp because it's going to really take you down your spiral. It really is, because they're not ready for that transformative healing work just yet. They can be, but they're not quite there yet. You got to be willing to dig into that stuff, even the childhood stuff. You know, exploring that stuff from a higher perspective is such a magnificent transformation.
Well, all right. Well, we've been spending a lot of time talking about it. It's going to be really good. I'm looking forward to the session that I'll be doing with you tomorrow after the show that I do with Dan and Alex. That's going to be really cool. That's going to kind of kickstart my thing into gear. But let's take just a few minutes to, we'll let you do your stream connection. I just want to ask a couple questions of the stream about what it's like from their perspective doing this stuff, and then we'll come back and finish up. So go ahead and make your connection. And while you're doing that, I'll remind people, if you want to keep following along, one of the ways to do that is with the LOA Today app. Make sure you have that downloaded and installed and you're using it on your phone. Take advantage of the fact that it has, among other things, a stream-led meditation on there. So, it's got a lot of good stuff. Take advantage of the goodies that are on there, and then by all means share it with others, because we want to keep passing this word along to as many people as we possibly can. So let's see how David and the stream are doing merging.
We are here.
Welcome again, stream. I'm so glad that you were able to join us, and I will tell you, quite frankly, I'm very much looking forward to the private session that I'll be doing with you and David tomorrow night. That's going to be, I've been thinking about this one for about a week, so this is going to be good. But for today, I just want you to take a little time. We're not going to really do the usual question and answer so much as I want you to just talk to listeners about what the whole TYA Bootcamp experience is like from your perspective, because you play a very specific role in the process. So I just want you to address what you do and what kind of interaction you have with people when they're in the TYA Bootcamp.
TYA Bootcamp is what we would call a co-creation between what we offer to all of you in terms of information regarding how the universe operates, universal law, if you will, and the very human perspective of building a toolkit to reprogram your very ego-driven human minds around these teachings as a practice, making it your way of being. Mm-hmm. And we share these things far and wide. We have said all along that there is no requirement for anyone to take boot camp or join any program. It is not for all, certainly. We are offering these teachings, and David does not hold us back from offering these teachings wherever he shares our message. However, the boot camp program was something born of David's desire to take the things that he taught himself in transforming his reality to something that was more in alignment with everything he always knew but wasn't allowing for himself, and to take those tools and start teaching them to other people. Interestingly, early on, he never claimed to be a teacher. In fact, mm-hmm. the idea of teacher-student learning was something that was a major turnoff in his experience, because he considered himself a very self-taught individual. Mm-hmm. However, there are endless methods of learning and endless methods of sharing information. And when we guided him to his path of teaching this practice to other people and setting it up in a more formal learning environment of a course, he let all of that resistance go and allowed himself to fully step into the role of what you would call a spiritual teacher. Although he may not be the stereotype of a spiritual teacher, because the human created stereotypical version of that is not necessarily what we are offering, and certainly not necessarily how David presents himself. But those of you who find this message in resonance appreciate the uniqueness of it, appreciate the authenticity of it, appreciate the directness of it, and appreciate the fact that this is a path that's aligning for you if you so choose. But we will be the ones to tell you that if you choose not to take this path, you're not going to get your human life experience wrong from your eternal perspective. Mm-hmm. What this path offers you is a set of tools that aligns you more with your own version of this, aligns you more with your own intuition, your own channeled guidance from within. And you are certainly welcome to luxuriate in what we offer or others in the form of channeled messages as often as you want. But we also guide you not to allow them to become a complete crutch. Mm. Notice that we are always guiding you back inward, back inward, back inward, raising your vibration through the detuning of judgment and the detuning of fear, the things that tend to drag your vibration down, clearing out your triggers, clearing out your traumas that create your triggers, simply aligns you with your own version of this. So to put it plainly, we are ultimately making ourselves obsolete. Mm-hmm. At least how we are shared through David, because we are guiding all of you through these tools to your own version of this. Of course, there's not going to be a time that these teachings aren't going to find resonance with human beings on certain stops of their journeys.
Sure.
But the ultimate teaching is to turn inward ultimately, to turn inward to your own guidance, to turn inward and trust your own abundance, and certainly come and play with us whenever you wish through David's sharing of us. But understand that we are available to all of you. Whether you are listening to a podcast or watching a YouTube video or simply meditating and allowing us to flow to you naturally, we are available to all of you.
That's very cool. I know that I've been spending a lot of time on this show today and on preceding shows leading up to today, focusing on the boot camp itself and on the experience of people who've been directly involved. We've had guests on who are, there was one guest who was a mentor, another guest who's one of the original members of the group, is now a coach and part of the mastery program. And of course, we have David on here himself. Debbie G, who does the show with me on Fridays, she's been through it. Dan Mangain is currently in the mastery program. And so we've been doing a lot of stuff in this way. But I'm also curious to know your perspective and why you're in it, because like David and his crew, they are offering this as a paid program. So obviously there's a monetary side to it, but they are also pursuing their own human goals and so forth. They have physical needs and physical interests that they're interested in fulfilling and so forth. But Source Energy doesn't really fit that criteria, and you guys are Source Energy. So I'm wondering, what's in it for you? What is it that you're getting out of this? Where's the benefit that makes it really worthwhile for you to offer this kind of assistance and help?
We are not an energy that is off in the sky somewhere thinking about whether or not we want to come and play with you this way or not. We are not that. We are eternal consciousness, and you are all part of us. Mm-hmm. So in your questioning and you're looking for a different way, a different operating system, if you will, you are summoning this through David to speak to you that which you innately already know. That is why the message resonates when you detune your fear around it or your judgment around it. Mm-hmm. You simply relax into listening to it, and we begin sharing. It begins to connect the dots for you. It begins to answer all of your earthly life human questions for you. And that is the reason for being. We are always present. We are always available. This is not a decision to come flow through David to change the world, if you will. Mm-hmm. This is something that is available to all, but in David has a unique skill set. And notice that you do not all have the same skill set. You all have your version of this flowing to you, just like you all have the ability to sing, perhaps, but you do not all have the ability to sing the way Whitney Houston sings. Mm-hmm. So you are interacting with one who can make sense of the information that is being offered and step back vibrationally and allow a different perspective to flow. And in doing that, absorbing information that is more confirmation for what you have known all along than anything else. And in absorbing this confirmation and connecting the dots, you can rest assured that this information is all high vibrational information, because when you are in a high vibrational state of being, it all makes sense. And then when you dip down into something less than that, the static kicks in. Mm-hmm. And the message gets confusing. Perhaps the message, the doubt of the message comes in. You begin questioning the reasons behind it, the motivation of the sharing.
Mm-hmm. True.
And that is a sign of your own lower vibrational thinking, because if you're an abundant being, there is no fear in anyone else's motivation for doing anything. Mm-hmm. Because if you are believing that you are truly an abundant being, you are not judging one who charges against one who does not, for example, one who is selling a program and one who is giving it all away. You are not operating in that mode of fear that is creating that static that is actually holding you away from your progress. It is a form of self-sabotage. That is why when we flow, David never, ever limits what we share. And we are the first to share that everything that you would learn in the TYA practice is being offered all the time. There is no secret sauce in any program or offering that is offered there that is withheld in these types of interactions. Notice we will answer any question that you pose. So the secret sauce is in you getting into the structure and giving it the power to transform you, and the camaraderie and all of those other elements that are offered in that. But as far as the teachings go, as David has stated, TYA is the practical application of our teachings. But our teachings are everywhere.
I love the way you obliterated my question very effectively. I mean, really, it's almost like the question doesn't even matter anymore. And it was beautiful. It's beautiful. I mean, just fabulous. And in doing so, you actually showed me something about how I've been thinking about things that just kind of, it's a release point, I guess is what I'm saying. It's a point where I'm saying, okay, I don't need to go that direction. I don't need to feel what I was feeling over there. Because as you're pointing out, that was really just fear-based anyway. I just wasn't acknowledging it. Okay. All right. So that's good. That's a good thing. And that I get the sense that's what this whole program is all about. It's about that ongoing process of just letting go of this stuff. Because when you mentioned that this is about, and then when David mentioned that this is about diving into yourself, making that interconnection more, having the intercommunication with Source. I mean, that's really what motivated me to join the boot camp in the first place. Anyway, that's what motivates me to do this podcast. That's what motivates me to keep learning. I want to have that connection. I want to, in effect, be able to have this conversation within myself. And if that's where I'm going by taking this program, I'm saying, well, great, what took me so long? So thank you for
everything that holds imperfection. And we guide all of you to understand that your human experience that you are encountering, we very much will focus you on the experience that you're in. There is a reason that you set aside all of your own personal, if you will, eternal wisdom as part of Source. Set that aside and project yourselves in what seems like an independent way into a physical human vehicle and experience the earth environment in your physical vehicle. Mm-hmm. And when you are not in that physical vehicle, when you are reemerged in the wholeness of all that you are, you come to understand that there is no wrong way to operate your human experience.
Sure.
That is why the millions of people on planet Earth that will never be exposed to these teachings via us and never be exposed to the TYA practice are not getting their lives wrong. But those of you that are curious, those of you that are understanding that you are creating your own reality, this is the next step in the evolution of understanding exactly how and how that serves you and how to master your own vibrational flow. And the key to understanding the mastery of it is understanding that mastery and perfection are not the same thing. Mastery is a state of high allowing and high appreciation, not a state of being perfect at it. There is no perfecting in this. There is no true mastery of this in the sense of becoming this perfect human being. We are not offering that. You did not come here for that. David is not an example of that. There are no examples of that. There are facades of that in your world. But most of you hearing these words are very well aware that those are just that. They are just facades.
Yeah, that's very cool. All right, well, this is definitely going to be a shorter session than we normally have done in the past, but I did want to bring you in here, and I'm really glad I did. You cleared up a couple things for me, and hopefully you are also helping to clear things up for listeners who are kind of going through this process with me, and they're kind of looking over my shoulder vicariously and learning what happens. So you just contributed to that. Thank you very much. I'm going to let you do your disconnect from David. We'll bring David back in and finish up the show here in the last few minutes. But wow, 2 questions I asked, and look what came out of that. That was just amazing. So now, David, you probably don't remember this stuff. That was a relatively short session. I don't know if you remember any of it this time. And it was basically what I told you before you went in, that I was going to ask for their perspective. And they, in the process, managed to absolutely destroy my second question. It was wonderfully done.
Really?
Yes.
Destroyed in a good way, I hope.
Well, very good way. I asked them point blank, okay, well, we know what's in it for David and for his team. I mean, there's a monetary side. They have their individual goals they're going for and so forth. But what's in it for you? And they just absolutely ruined the question. It was wonderful.
You know, it's interesting when you say that. The what's in it for them is it's always on.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the Wi-Fi in your house. You know, you might not be online, but the Wi-Fi is just right there. And hopefully you can just jump on anytime that you want. But that their love is always flowing.
Mm-hmm.
I know that. Once you learn to quick clear, regardless of what circumstance I'm in, because when you work your default vibration up higher, we get into this thing in the TYA practice called quick clear.
Okay.
Within seconds, you can get back up. And that's a magical way of being. And when you get to that quick clear, I can be in a situation in the moment, take a breath, close my eyes for half a second, take a little breath, maybe not even close my eyes. It might be in traffic, and then have the whole reality shift right before my eyes.
I like that. Yeah. I mean,
it's always running and it's always on. It's not a point of satisfaction for them. It's just how they are.
Yeah.
How eternal consciousness is. And that's what we're drawing out in the channeling.
Yeah, it's very cool. And what you're describing there, what would you call it? Quick clear? Is that what you called it?
Yeah, you'll learn quick clear. Yeah.
Yeah. The quick clear, it sounds like something that I personally have been developing in my own development, trying to get better and better at doing that. And I can't say I've gotten to the point where I can do it instantaneously. So that's going to be fun to learn that. But I have gotten better over time. I mean, it used to be it would take me months and years before I could make a shift. And then I got it down to days, and then I got it down to hours. And, so there's been a definite progress. But to actually get it down to snapping my fingers, ooh, yeah, that's delicious. I like that.
Yeah. I had an experience on Friday. We rented a house, an Airbnb up in Joshua Tree for the weekend. And, I joked that we went from 120 degree desert to another 120 degree desert.
Yeah.
And, we couldn't check in until 3. So we got some work done in the morning, and then we were loading up we have this big SUV with all this glass, and we're loading up the SUV, and we turn it on and turn the air on. And it's so hot outside, and we're loading up the car, and then we had to stop and do something. And then we were both hungry, and I was going to go grab something to eat, and I went the wrong way, and the place I thought I was going wasn't there. And it was like things just kept stacking up, right? And so I haven't had In-N-Out Burger in a long, long, long time. I thought, I'm on a little mini vacation. I'm going to go get In-N-Out Burger. Well, the line at In-N-Out Burger was like an hour wait. In the parking lot. I should have just turned around, but I didn't. I said, I'm going to detune this. I'm going to get in the line. And then sure enough, some guys like trying to turn around and come out and blocking us. And, and then I'm like, looking at him like, I can't back up. I can't go forward. What do you want me to do? And he starts screaming out of his window. And I'm looking at Michael, I'm like, this is going to be one of those, road rage. Somebody just got murdered in a Starbucks line the other day. And I'm like,
oh no.
And so I started going up my spiral, but Michael didn't. He was so annoyed. And then we get on the road, and he's like having all this, incidents with people around him on driving and stuff. And I'm like, you really need to go up your spiral. You really need to go up your spiral. It's like the car wasn't cooling off. Like nothing was working.
Yeah.
Air conditioning was broken in the car, all this. And then all of a sudden, when I did my quick clear, my whole rest of the trip changed.
Wow.
Yeah, you can do it that fast to where whatever's going around you just completely shifts in reality. Suddenly the air is cooling, traffic calms down, the dog is chilling in the back seat. We're all good now just by raising your vibration in that moment. But, sometimes when you get down in that funk, you don't even remember what it's like to be up. We talk about that a lot. Mm-hmm. And you've got to have some tools to kind of snap out of that, because you can create, a whole momentum of one bad scenario.
Oh, yeah.
Easily.
It doesn't take very much to do it. Well, yeah. I'm definitely looking forward to the session I'll be doing with you in the stream tomorrow evening, my time, afternoon, your time. So that's going to be cool. But thank you for spending this time today. Really, really good. It's always great to have you on the show, but today was like poignant. So yeah, thanks for joining me today.
Good. Really good. I appreciate being here. Thank you.
And thank you especially to all the people joining on the live stream. We appreciate you as well. Thank you to all of our podcast listeners, and we will see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.